everyone. Welcome to episode 20 of Franklin Fiber, my knitting, spinning, fiber-related podcast. I'm Julie, also known as Lovey Lamb, on Instagram and on Ravelry. Oh my god, it's episode 20. That's like kind of a big deal. I can't believe I've actually stuck with anything this long. Knitting is pretty much the only thing that I've stuck with this long in comparison in the rest of my life. I tend to be a starter, not a finisher, in case you couldn't tell with a lot of my sweaters that I may or may not have shown you in the early episodes of this show. So, I got my tea. So it is finally little late, but better late than never. It's finally the doldrums of summer here at the Jersey Shore. We've had fantastic weather. I really can't complain all summer long. It's really just been the most beautiful summer that I can remember. Like mid 70s, only a couple of days in the 80s, like 2 days in the 90s, all summer long, with breezes, and it only rains at night. And it's been perfect. But the last 2 days of this Labor Day weekend were pretty warm. And so we finally turned the air conditioners on in my new apartment, which is fine, I have nothing against air conditioning, but it was nice to have just windows open for as long as we did. However, I had to turn the air conditioner off because it was a little loud, and the walls in here are plaster, so it kind of echoes, and it was just really too hard to hear me when I was testing out recording. So it's gonna get warm in here really fast. I'm trying out the old, drink something hot when the weather's hot thing. So I'm drinking tea. I don't think it's working. I don't know. Chugging hot tea to try to cool off. It's something that doesn't sound right about that. But this is really good tea. This is Good Earth Matcha Maker, M-A-T-C-H-A, Matcha Maker, which is it's like a matcha green tea. So it's that really nice, strong, kind of almost milky green tea with orange and some kind of spice. And it tastes like a creamsicle green tea. So if you're really hot and you want to cool off with a hot beverage, yeah, that's a good one. Okay, so it's already starting to warm up in here. Let's go. What am I working on? Well, okay, I'll show you this. It's not really a finished object, but it's a thing that is bound off. This is another square. Remember last week I showed you, I'll go get it. Okay. Last week I showed you this little project that I've been working on for my leftover scraps of sock yarn. Just a little striped mitered square, and I'm gonna make a whole bunch of these, put them into a bag, and then hopefully not just have a bag of mitered squares that I throw away, but we'll actually seam them all together. I don't know, I can imagine in the depths of winter one year, finding solace in just sewing together a million squares and then having something to warm me up. So that was that. I already showed you that. But I decided to do the same thing. So I keep my worsted weight scraps. I keep my sock yarn scraps, which I think is pretty common. Most people do that. But I also keep worsted weight scraps just because I always have enough left over that it feels bad throwing it away, but not enough to even make a hat or anything useful out of it. And so I keep it, and I always think, oh, I'll just use it as scrap yarn, or like I don't even know, tie up newspapers. But they just end up sitting in balls in a bag in my stash. So I decided to do the same thing, not striped. Just make worsted weight, mitered squares. Same deal, casting on 45, and then doing the center double decrease down. And I'll just have a bunch of these too. And these I could make, they don't have to end up being blankets. They could be a baby blanket, which is a blanket. I recognize that. They could be a baby blanket, or they could be, they could become a pillowcase, or something else that you would sew squares together for. A cool bag, maybe, like a neat tote bag for if I could stabilize it, maybe like do some kind of I-cord fun stuff to make it a little more stable. So, I don't know. It makes me feel satisfied that I'm not just having these little balls of yarn around, but actually something. And this could also be like a really tiny pot holder or a coaster, right? I could use this as a coaster, whatever. So that's one thing that I did. A mitered square. And there was also the hat I was working on out of this. I didn't finish it. Not worth showing you right now because it looks the same. So next episode I just had to finish the decreases on the top of the hat. That was a holdover project because I was waiting. Oh wait, I had another holdover project. I'll show you that first. So I was waiting to cast on my baby sweater for September 1st, which was yesterday, because that's when I decided that, I had started a little knit along, which you can still sign up for. It's definitely not too late, never too late. And it was for baby items. And I said that the kickoff date would be September 1st. So I didn't want to start my baby sweater until then. But I had time and I needed to work on stuff. And I wanted something really simple and mindless, something I could take to the beach with me. And so this is what I got. It looks terrible. It looks like stupid right now. And it's the Bias Before and After scarf. And it's a free pattern. No, it's a pay-for pattern, but not very much. By Church Mouse Yarn and Tees, which is a yarn shop on Bainbridge Island in Washington State. And this is a pattern that they came up with, which is really quite simple. It's just a biased scarf that's provisional cast on at the bottom, which is a crocheted sock yarn there. So it's a scarf knit on the bias, and it's called the Before and After scarf because it looks terrible before, but they assure you that upon blocking in the way that they describe blocking it, it'll look great. But in the meantime, it's really easy. So stockinette knit on the bias. And I'm knitting this out of this yarn, which is a Freya Hand Paints lace weight yarn. So you can sort of see, yeah. So that color is it's a little bit muted on the screen, but it's close enough. So it's this really fiery orange in the middle. It kind of progresses out to brown, and it ends with this icy blue. And the name of the color is Moab. And it's this nice, I don't know if you're going to be able to see, but there's actually the orange isn't just orange. It has reddish areas and more yellowy areas, so it has some depth and dimensionality to it. I'm knitting this on size 7, so it is a nice loose gauge. I think this is going to be a good fall weight scarf, assuming I finish it in time. And this is it's a wool, I think it's a merino. I lost the tag, and I've been so good about saving it for so long. It was, it's one of the ones that wraps around here, and I think it slipped off, and then I lost it. So sad. I wonder if you can see those colors any better. Nope, that's about the same. So yes, it's Freya Hand Paints. They're lace weight. There's 600 and some odd yards in here, so this is going to be a nice big scarf. And I think I wanted to do something that was simple with this because it is, this gradient, that's what I really want to show off is the gradient. So it's going to go through all the colors to blue, and then if it's long enough, I think it would be cool to kind of wear it doubled, folded in half and wrapped around so that you could see the blue and the orange next to each other, and then it would kind of meld up in this area. Anyway, getting ahead of myself, planning how to wear a scarf that's currently like 7 inches long. But that's what I was working on. Oh yeah, did I say size 7s? I think I did. These are my Hiya Sharps. I'm using the 40-inch cable for this interchangeable Hiya Sharp needle because it was the only one that I had left, and it's so ridiculous and actually really annoying to work on a thing that's like 10 inches wide on a 40-inch cable. Not recommended. Okay, finally. I showed you last week my swatch for my baby sweater that I'm making. This is a nice big swatch, which I figured, what the hell? You can make a big swatch. I could always unknit it at the end if I need more of this yarn, but I don't think I will. And, so I'll save it, and if I don't need it, this could be a pot holder or something. Dishcloth. Anyway, it is Spud and Chloe's sweater, which I think I just had the tag for that somewhere. Discombobulated. Nope, that's outer. What's that getting there? Spud and Chloe, where are you? Oh, there it is. Okay, Spud and Chloe sweater. This is a wool cotton blend. It's superwash, and the color is 7514, aka Turtle. So, there you go. Turtle. I bought it at websyarn.com. It's really soft, and the drape is nice. So this is it after it was washed and blocked. And I got gauge. Well, actually, what was the deal? My stitch gauge was slightly off. I would have had to go down a needle size to get the number of stitches per inch that were called for, but the row gauge was correct. And I really didn't want this to be knit any denser than it is. This is kind of like, this is comfortable, but any more density in this fiber, in this fabric would be a little bit, I think, stiff and uncomfortable. Like, I want it to move a little bit. So I just decided that as long, I know my row gauge is fine. The stitch gauge, it'll be, I haven't made any changes to the pattern, and it was just slightly off. So it'll just be a little wider than the pattern calls for. Well, that means it'll just be a little boxier. And I don't think a baby's gonna care that much. So far it's coming out right, and I'm not concerned. But know that I will have to eat my words if it ends up being this like misshapen sweater. All right, so here's what I have so far. This is 2 days of knitting. I started it yesterday morning. This is the collar. It is, what do you call this, broken rib? I've seen it called fisherman's rib. Rib where you have garter in between instead of purl. And it makes it lay nice and flat. There's actually an option in the pattern. You could just do standard 2x2 rib, but I went with this one because it does lay nice and flat. So that's the collar, which folds over. So then this is the right side of the body. So it's really quite simple. Here's the front, back. Got raglan sleeves, so those are the shoulders that I'm increasing. And the cable detail that goes down the sides of the front button band. And I did just get through the first buttonhole, so that's exciting. There it is. And yeah, it's going along nicely. The thing is, so as I mentioned, I decided to wait to start my, sorry. Looking at this. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. Getting nervous. I decided to wait until the right time to start this baby sweater because I thought it would be fair to do it that way. I don't want to say to everyone else you have to start on September 1st, but I can start whenever I want. And I figured, you know, it's a baby sweater. It's not going to take that long because I did kind of promise that it would be done by the middle of September. So I've got about 2 weeks to make this sweater, but I'm not really concerned about it. Everything else that I showed you is on knitting hiatus until this is done. And I don't think that's unreasonable. But then I did this, you know, wonky band-aid. On a Sunday night, I somehow managed to cut off part of my finger while chopping herbs for dinner. So it's fine, it's like, you know, it's healing up fine, but it does make knitting a little slower. So now all of a sudden I got the jitters about whether or not I'm really gonna be able to finish this. But I know, it'll be fine. It's not gonna, please, it's gonna be fine. Okay. What else did I want to tell you about this? Spud and Chloe sweater. I'm making the 0 to 6 month size. I am using the pattern, the needle size recommended by the pattern, which is a 6. Also Hiya-Hiya's. I remember, I think I showed you a few weeks ago that when I got this yarn, I had also ordered a new cable needle because I couldn't find mine. And as soon as those ones arrived, I found my old cable needles. And this is what happens every time with me for cable needles. I found the old ones, which these are Knit Picks. They're cable needles. This is one. There's 3 sizes, and this is the middle one. And then immediately somehow lost the brand new ones that I got. So I'm only ever in possession of 1 set of cable needles, even though I think I've bought 3 or 4 sets. And they just, I don't know what happens to them. They float away, and then all of a sudden they come back. I think maybe there's gremlins or something in or a poltergeist. that follows me around from house to house, but only steals cable needles. Because I still have every single, I never lose stitch markers, ever. And I still have every darning needle that I bought when the very first knitting project I ever did. And I needed a darning needle to weave in the end, so I bought a 5-pack of darning needles, and I still have all of them. But somehow, cable needles, they elude me. So that's fine though. That just means that I'll find them someday, and then I'll lose these again, and it'll all work out karmically in the end. So that's all I have for knitting, and that's kind of all I have in general. I didn't spin again. It's just too hot. The summer doldrums, they just make me want to sit on the couch and watch Game of Thrones. Oh yeah, I kind of caught that bug. It's been on for a couple of years, and the whole time it's just like, whatever, I'm not into that, like I don't do fantasy, Middle-earth type stuff. I was never a big Tolkien fan, except that I totally am. Oh my god. I don't know what happened. Maybe it was, where did I hear about it? I think her name was Kristen from Vine podcast. Someone was talking about Game of Thrones like weeks ago. And I was just like, you know what, I just finished Breaking Bad. That was great, but I didn't really have any shows that I watched. And I was trying to think of one that was still on the air so that I could still get into the excitement of watching once I caught up to where it is now. And I heard that. I was like, all right, well, I've never actually watched it. Let me give it a try. I am hooked. Totally hooked. It is, it's really fun. It is it's got the whole warring royal families and, very attractive people, of course. Somehow, even though there are decades of inbreeding in these royal families, only the beautiful genes are exaggerated. And this, political intrigue and Machiavellian tactics, and then of course it gets a little bit fantasy supernatural, but by that time you've already totally bought in. It's kind of like Scientology in that way. They get you in the door with these kind of reasonable plot lines that are about really interesting characters, and you just kind of get hooked on that. And by the time they break out the zombies and the dragons, you're just like, I don't even care anymore. This is great. Oh my god, zombies. Who would win? So, yeah. So if anyone is also hooked on that, let me know, because I'd love to geek out. I tried to get my husband into it, and he was just not having it. But that's fine. It's my show. I get to watch it when I'm alone. So that's pretty much what I've been doing. Not knitting and just watching TV. But I hope everyone had a nice Labor Day. I know I did. I got to go to the beach, which I've hardly got to do at all this summer. There's just always something come up, or the weather isn't cooperating or something. But I did get to the beach on Sunday, and that was great. And then I went again yesterday. My husband and I go to a beach that's a couple of miles south, so we just ride our bikes down, which is great. Got to hang out at a friend's pool. Got to swim in a pool. I hadn't swum in a pool all summer. God, I didn't realize how much I loved that. That was really nice, especially after getting knocked around by the waves. We've had some really nasty storm swells around here and bad riptides. Be careful if you're not a strong swimmer, especially. You could be up to your knees and still get knocked down and have to worry about rip currents, riptides rather. So. Yeah, so it was like getting in the ocean. It was actually a stressful experience instead of a relaxing one. When you're hot and you're just like, oh god, I want to go cool off, and then you get in the ocean and you're just being bombarded by these huge waves and just constantly having to duck under. You get up and you take a breath and you see another huge wave, so you duck back under. And I actually sprained my ankle getting caught underneath the wave. That was last week. I'm fine. It wasn't that bad. I just taped it up and it wasn't that big a deal. But so between that and my cut off finger, I've been really on a roll this week. But yeah, so I got to do that. I got to have dinner with my mom one night. Last night, my husband and I got to go. A friend of ours is opening a new restaurant in Asbury Park, New Jersey. Anyone in the area, You should check it out. It's going to be called Tallulah's. It's going to be on Cookman Ave, which is the main street in Asbury. And it's going to be gourmet pizza, beautiful baked bread. It's going to be sort of like a coffee house bakery in the day, and then switch over to pizza and pasta in the evening. And it looks like it's going to be awesome. We went there because they were testing out some of their pizza recipes, so we got to be guinea pigs, which was a real hardship, let me tell you. So we did that, and they're opening at the end of September, beginning of October, so keep your eye out. So yeah, but it was, just a nice relaxing weekend, and I hope it was for everyone else too. All right, we've been at it for about 20 minutes now, and I am starting to break a sweat. And I love you guys, but I don't want to sweat for you. So, till next week, join the Ravelry group. Join up with the baby knits cowl that's going in the Ravelry group. It's never too late to join, and it doesn't have to be a sweater. You can just make a little tiny preemie hat, and you're entered into the cowl. And there will be prizes. I've got yarn that I want to give away, and I think we might have some other giveaways as well, depending on how many people are joining. So sign up. Maybe you'll win something free, and all you got to do is, hey, you can make a preemie hat and donate it to one of the preemie hat charities. So look at that, like, you'd be a good person and you might win something. So how do you argue with that? So anyway, join the group. It's the Franklin Fiber podcast group. Join the cowl. Yeah, friend me on Ravelry. I'm Loveelamb, Loveeelamb. I always love having new friends. You can also follow me on Instagram, the same name, Loveelamb, and just see updates about my life. I swear I don't spam it too much. It's just fun, and I love having that visual way of interacting with people. So yeah, until next week, hope you enjoy the last days of summer. All right, stay crafty. Bye.